Nobody tells you what an offshore fishing boat actually costs to own before you buy one. The dealer shows you the cockpit, the rod holders, the live well capacity, the top speed at wide open throttle, and the financing options. What they do not show you is the service invoice from year 2, the haul-out bill, the bottom paint quote, or what happens when Saltwater finds the one system on the boat that was not maintained on schedule. The 10% rule is the most widely documented guideline in recreational boating. Budget 10% of the boat's purchase price every year for maintenance. On a $250,000 offshore center console, that is $25,000 per year, before fuel, before slip fees, before insurance, before anything catastrophic. Most buyers hear that number after they close, not before. Here is exactly where it goes, and why offshore fishing platforms carry a maintenance burden that no other category of recreational boat matches. This is the cost center that arrives fastest and hurts most predictably. Offshore fishing boats run their engines hard in the most chemically aggressive environment any mechanical system can face. Saltwater accelerates corrosion on every metal surface, every electrical connection, every rubber component in the cooling and fuel systems. The result is a service interval schedule that is not optional and not negotiable. A full outboard service, including impeller replacement, runs approximately $1,000 per engine, confirmed by Born Again Boating's documented service cost analysis. On a twin outboard platform, that is $2,000 per service event. On a triple outboard configuration, increasingly common on 35 to 45-foot offshore center consoles, that is $3,000. Most manufacturers recommend annual service or service at 100-hour intervals, whichever comes first. At realistic offshore use rates, annual service is the controlling factor. Triple or quad outboard platforms can push annual engine service costs alone into the $4,000 to $6,000 range before any unscheduled repairs are added. Inboard diesel platforms carry a different cost structure that is not cheaper. It is more complex. Oil changes, raw water impeller replacement, heat exchanger inspection, exhaust riser service, and belt and hose inspection are all required at defined intervals. Exhaust riser corrosion on gasoline inboard platforms is a documented and well-known failure mode. Internal corrosion erodes the wall between the exhaust passage and the water jacket, allowing water to back siphon into the engine on shutdown. Mercruiser certified technicians document the riser service interval at approximately 300 to 400 engine hours, compressed significantly by saltwater use. A riser replacement event is a fraction of the cost of a complete engine rebuild, but only if the riser is replaced before it breaches. Owners who deferred riser service have documented complete powerhead losses that a scheduled replacement would have cost a few $100s to prevent. Every offshore fishing boat that spends time in the water, rather than on a lift or trailer, starts growing marine organisms on its hull the moment it enters the water. Barnacles, algae, and other fouling organisms reduce performance, increase fuel consumption, and accelerate hull deterioration at through-hull fittings and below the waterline. Fouling accelerates these problems. The solution is ablative anti-fouling bottom paint applied annually or biannually, which requires hauling the boat, pressure washing the hull, and applying multiple coats of paint before returning to the water. Bottom paint prevents growth, but creates recurring maintenance requirements. Bottom paint application on a mid-size offshore fishing boat, a 30 to 40-foot center console or walk-around, runs between $700 to $1,500 for materials and labor at a yard. Haul-out fees vary by geography and vessel weight, but run between $300 to $600 for a boat in this size class. A full bottom job, including haul-out, pressure wash, a barrier coat if needed, and 2 coats of ablative paint, is a $1,500 to $2,500 event every 18 to 24 months. For boats kept in wet slips year-round in warm southern coastal markets, where fouling growth is faster than in northern waters, Annual bottom painting is the documented standard, not the exception. Costs here are predictable but recurring. The through-hull fittings and transducers that penetrate the hull below the waterline require inspection at every haul-out. A failed or deteriorating through-hull fitting on a boat underway offshore is not a slow problem, it is a sinking event. Transducer replacement on modern multi-element sonar systems runs between $200 to $800 per unit before labor. Every haul-out is a forced inspection of everything below the waterline that cannot be examined in the water, and the cost of that inspection is built into the haul-out schedule, whether the owner plans for it or not. Offshore fishing boats run more electronics per square foot of deck space than almost any other recreational platform. A fully equipped 38-foot offshore center console typically carries a multifunction chart plotter at the helm, a fish finder with sonar transducer, a VHF radio, a radar unit, an autopilot with drive system, and AIS. On higher specification builds, satellite communications, thermal imaging cameras, and networked multi-screen helm arrays add to the complexity. Marine electronics do not age gracefully. Software support for chart plotter and fish finder systems from major manufacturers, including Garmin, Furuno, and Simrad, has a documented life cycle. Garmin's policy, for example, is to provide software updates for approximately 10 years after a product's discontinuation date, but hardware support and chart updates may end sooner for specific legacy platforms. A chart plotter purchased with the boat in 2016 is running on hardware and software that may no longer receive current chart updates or manufacturer support by 2026. That means a navigation system on an offshore platform running 30 miles from the coast is operating on potentially outdated chart data. An electronics refresh on a mid-size offshore fishing boat, including a new chart plotter, radar unit, and fish finder with transducer, runs between $8,000 and $25,000, depending on the scope and brands selected. Take a $300,000 offshore center console and apply the 10% rule. That is $30,000 per year in maintenance budget. Annual engine service on twin or triple outboards, $1,000 to $1,500 per engine. Bottom paint every 12 to 18 months, $1,500 to $2,500. Anode replacement at every haul out, $200 to $500. Slip fees in a coastal marina, $4,000 to $10,000 per year depending on market. Insurance, $3,000 to $6,000 annually for a boat of this value and type. A reserve for unscheduled events, the fuel pump that fails, the lower unit that takes an impact, the wiring that corrodes at a terminal not visible during a routine inspection. Boats Daily documents the annual maintenance range for mid-size offshore fishing platforms at $20,000 to $60,000 per year, a figure that brackets the 10% rule but extends well past it on boats that are run hard, kept in wet slips, and serviced at dealer rates. The buyers who manage offshore fishing boat ownership without financial distress are the ones who built the full annual cost picture before the purchase decision, not after. The 10% rule is the starting point, not the ceiling. The actual cost structure on an offshore saltwater platform running hard in coastal water is the reality check that changes how that purchase looks from year one forward. Composite construction that eliminates wood core rot, through-bolted hardware that holds under offshore load, and fish box drain routing that exits overboard rather than into the bilge are not luxury features on a platform carrying this maintenance burden. They are the construction minimum that prevents the maintenance cost from compounding on top of structural repair costs simultaneously. The boats that make offshore fishing ownership sustainable over a decade are the ones where the builders solve the structural problems, before the owner ever had to pay for the maintenance ones. Know what you are buying, know what it costs to run, and budget for both before you sign anything. The water does not care what you expected. The invoice always reflects what the environment actually required.